Okay. How are we doing? All right. So one of the problems that very energetically sensitive, and I keep getting slammed with this wall of energy cancel that that has been coming in and like a blanket and stalling all of the information. I don't know why this is happening, but and I'm going to see if I can adjust that a little bit. I can tell that when it flows, there's a huge river of information that really wants to come through. Got to move over too. All right. How are we doing? Okay. But I can feel all of, oh, I'm not happy with this. Wait a minute. I'm just not. I know it doesn't matter to you, but it matters to me because I'm off center. All right. Right now it's like this is the first time I've done this by myself, and we're gonna like dick around with the energy a little bit, because when I'm connecting, it's easiest if I'm connecting with one person. But I'm very sensitive to the entire audience. So, and as well as other people are going to be listening. Hi. Listening in the future because I'm off the timeline. So I actually have no idea what's going to come through tonight, but I can feel, and maybe some of you probably can too, a big ball of churning information. There's an information stream. Hang on. I'm okay. This is what happens. I'm like a great big conduit, right? And we're dealing with a significant amount of resistance. There's a resistant wall, and energetic adjustments are being made. So the first thing that happens when I'm in a process of clearing or the energy is coming through me with great speed on a very broad level. One of the things that happens is that my speech gets very nonlinear, and any of you who who've had private sessions with me know that sometimes they tell me to stop talking. The conversation, I'll kind of drift off. What happens is that the words come out of my mouth as that particular information is coming through. So I'm going to keep moving for a while. It's the energy when it's very, sorry, hang on. It's like a great big tornado. It's a huge hurricane that's above my head. And it moves the same way that a carousel moves. So you've got a lot of different elements, and they're all moving up and down. It's also going around in a circle. So as the energy is coming through me, and I'm also dealing with all of your strands, right? Because I'm picking up, it's a two-way system, sorry, there's just a lot. They're doing a lot of adjusting right now. That's what's happening. So a lot of this is going to be very nonlinear. It's not going to make a lot of sense. A lot of it is being done. Oh, it really is. A lot of this is being done on our behalf. So it's not, I don't have to do anything with deliberation right now. I could, but they're telling me to just get out of the way, just let it flow. And they're doing all of the weaving of the light strands. There's like an interdimensional loom, which I can totally talk about that at a different time. But back to the carousel. I'm going to go off topic probably a lot. Because this is just like the initial broadcast. So we're basically trying to just get a tremendous amount of information that's just going to start flowing. And also it's going to you. So I would ask to connect all of, thank you, Sarah Adams. Connect all of our higher selves right now. Open yourself up to channel. The energy is going to flow through, and I'm just going to talk. A lot of it isn't going to make a lot of sense. Usually what happens is that the topic will come back around. So if I start to tell you like a blithering story and then I drift off, all the stuff that used to drive my ex-husband crazy. You've gone off topic, whatever. Eventually, if you stick with it long enough, it'll probably loop back around and you'll get the tail end of it. But right now, there's just a lot of, we're just building a network. It's a circulatory system. Also, one of the things that happens particularly now, because it's early days, we're going to bring this down into form later. But right now, there's just a lot of very, very chaotic energy, a lot of moving parts on very many number of layers, dimensions, and a lot of different elements, thousands and thousands, more than that. Lots of elements and elementals. They're very happy that we're opening up this way. And I'm just going to keep moving, and they're just going to play around with all of the energy. And right now, you're getting an energetic transmission. And so am I. We're just weaving it's the beginnings of the circulatory system. So in this moment, I would ask that without trying to get too much in your head and understanding it, that will come. This is also the beginning of telepathy. Right now, I would ask that you don't question it too much. If something feels wrong, you have every right to just say, I choose to resist anything that doesn't feel good to me. And that will automatically happen, because in the higher dimensions, we really value free choice, and we value the sensitive nature of each being. So nobody is going to trespass against your higher will, or against your comfort. So right now, all we're trying to do is bring in frequencies of one another, connect to whatever brought you here at this moment, whatever, like attracts like. So whatever brought you here in this moment to join with this energy stream, there's a portion of you that recognizes that as truth. And we're just connecting the tendrils right now. At some point, there's going to be architecture that is really going to be solid, and it's going to be a circulatory system that is going to be absolutely undeniable. And we're never going to go back to the previous system ever. This is the commencement. Hang on. They're making adjustments. They're telling me to hold back. It's like there are channels, and a lot of them are you too. It's almost like we're building a circulatory system that is each one of us. And we're aiming for equality, but some of the channels are broader. It's kind of like some of us function as arteries and some of us are capillaries. There's a whole bunch of different size veins, and they're just trying to make adjustments so that nobody is swamped or made uncomfortable. I have no idea where this is going. I have no idea how long it's going to be. I do know that the skill set that is required, maybe, it's required. We're growing into the skill set that we need. One of the things that we need to have in our toolkit as we step forward up is the ability to walk forward and proceed in a void where we have no idea what the fuck's going to happen, but we know that we are creative problem solvers. And we can pull in solutions as we need to. And we also don't travel alone. And we connect with our guides and other instant manifestors who we have a capacity, an inherent skill to automatically share everything that we have and everything that we are. So if I don't have something and somebody else does, if I need a shoe and somebody has it, says, here, you can have this. That's a clumsy example, but there's an automatic sharing and automatic giving. And in the higher dimensions, we all live that way. We just live that way. And the thing is, when we came in, we remembered ourselves until we forgot. And I know that if you're connected with me now, you're one of those too. Sarah Adams and I were talking. Hang on a minute. This is from a different frequency. There are two realms that are trying to merge. One of them, hang on a minute, they're making adjustments. Probably some of, they're showing me the number 10. There are about 10 different topics that need to come through. When this circulation system is up and running, I will have the ability at that time when we're all set up and all connected. You all remember this, I know you do. We will have the ability restored to simply take a body of information, a comprehensive body of information in entirety, and simply beam it to all of you, and you will all get it. And when you all receive it, I'll know. Like there's this instant agreement. It's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful. And we all prefer it. It's so much faster. It's just nicer. Everybody understands everybody else. Everything is seen. There is no hiding. We all have the capacity to walk in full transparency. And there's also a certain natural homeostasis that comes in the higher realms, because the vibrational beaming forward, the vibrational generosity that's coming from all dimensions and all beings who are living in this world, the higher one that we're all procreating at this time. This is the way it works, the homeostasis. Let's say that every being is walking in their full transparency and their full authenticity, and they're hiding nothing and they're withholding nothing, but they themselves are simply radiating their own vibrational purity, their own essence. And let's say you have not talk about a rainbow of beings. There's everybody is there. If you have if there is no longer any division, that's really where we got fucked up. If there is no longer any division, and you have, hang on, an enormous array of enormous variety, an enormous variety from all platforms. And you've got all of the crystal beings and all of the nature beings, and you've got all of the humans of all kinds, and you've got all of the animal life. And every one of them is untampered with. Every one of us there is radiating this purity. And the way the homeostasis works is that, and this is also where your well-being, your balance is going to be maintained. There's this whole idea that nature abhors a vacuum, and it's absolutely true. So if I am a porous being, or I have some need, some let's say, hang on. I don't know why they're using this as an example, but let's say I need zinc. If every being and every mineral and everything is just offering of themselves in their purest state, if I'm somebody who needs zinc, I can simply walk into the land of plenty, and there's a natural homeostasis that happens on a vibrational level. And this is the way we're going to create health. The new healthcare system, I get the sense that there's going to be a certain kind of technological, the med beds are coming, that technology exists. Simultaneously, on the other, there's like a natural way to do it, and there's a technological way to do it. Probably these two systems are going to merge. Sorry, I'm still having, if the energy is choppy, if the transmission is choppy, that's because there's a lot of very high energy frequency coming in at this time. And if you're connected to it, I ask you, so let's just have a collected intention now to draw this energy in. And we can simply ask our guides, ask, how about just a combined intention is probably enough. We just ask that the transmission be made more smooth. And ask that every person receives it. Lots more to the point. Let's ask that every person hearing this now, or any person listening to it in the future, just receive everything they personally need, whatever you are in need of, that it is possible for you to receive from this transmission. May you receive it. Ask and it is given. I ask that, sorry, they're just making adjustments. I don't know if you can tell, there's a whole bunch of braiding going on. I don't know if it's all of you coalescing. I feel like some of it could be that. I know I'm changing topics slightly. There's some braiding of energy. Oh God, what the hell is that? There are like energetic rivers that are being rearranged. They're being rearranged and kind of braided. There's a lot of trading of strands going on behind my head and above it. And a lot of that, it's kind of like people being orchestrated into groups. A lot of the groups are merging, via task. People are kind of being grouped by tasks. Sometimes we think of that we're going to go back to just our soul family, our soul monad. That's not always the case. We do have a soul family, but even in a soul family, we sometimes divide out and do different jobs. There are a lot of, the first stage up after the third dimension is, and right now we're not even in the third dimension. We're kind of on the higher level of 4. And in this group, exactly this is going on. There's a grouping by tasks. And these tasks may, it's not like you're going to be in these forever. A lot of them are actually very short term. You have to go and you deliver, and when your task is done, you move, or you are moved. God, this happens to me all the time. I'll be assigned to something very intensely for a couple of days, and then they make me go do something else. Like this. I had no idea I was going to do this today. And where was I? So I'm very glad to have connected with all of you today. I don't know how long this is going to last. They have said that we're in the middle of mass migrations. That's one of the things that's happening. On the lower strata, there's a certain large group of people who are doing one thing, many things, but they're kind of all moving together. And it's much slower, no matter how much chaos you see. I don't watch television, but no matter how much chaos you see, and it seems like it's moving faster, it's moving comparatively faster, but the higher dimensions are way, way faster than that. So if you think there's chaos on the lower levels, there is, but it's very slow. We want them to hurry up. We're tired of waiting. On the higher levels, the movements are all shaped differently as well. The rules just totally freaking change. So, and that's going to be on it. They're saying we're not going to talk about this at that time, at this time. We're going to be talking about it later, because right now, okay, they're saying that this initial live stream is to perpetuate the flow and the propulsion. To get a lot of momentum, we basically just need to get a tremendous amount of flow going. It's not particularly controlled at this time, but there is I don't want to say linearity, but there is a certain amount of, they're using the term generous structure. Generous structure. It's not a limitation of a structure, but it is going to give us a certain kind of solidity or certain kind of architecture within which to work, that's going to stabilize us and kind of direct our group. Hang on. There are a lot of different strata, and the strata is moving at different speeds. Every force evolves a form. And one of the things that I know we're not going to really get into right now, but at some point we're going to talk about the science of creation and the way that you can play around with energy and morph the fields so that, wait a minute, I want to rephrase that. You can play around with energetic rivers in order to adjust the recipe of frequencies so that when it coalesces into a form, you get a particular product versus another. So there's a way to make apple pie by taking certain frequencies or certain energetic components, certain ingredients. And just by looking, and also you can reverse engineer it. So you could, like, for example, I can look at any given item and see what it contains very easily. A lot of people, one time I have a background as a painter. One time I met somebody who didn't have the ability at all to look at a color and know what colors made it. He couldn't do it. We showed him green one time. I had a painter friend and we showed him the color green, and we were trying to say, well, what, you know, out of these three colors, the primary colors, what do you think, what colors do you think make this? And he couldn't do it. He just really couldn't do it. I'm still not entirely sure why, because for me, it's very natural. I can tell exactly, I can match a color exactly. I can also look at an object and know what energetic rivers, what energetic ingredients combine to create a form that's, you know, green and round, and it turns out looking like a coffee cup. Of course it does, because it has these ingredients. If I can look, you know, in the air and say, well, if there's an object or a circumstance, because every force evolves a form or a circumstance. So the way creation works in the higher strata is that a lot of our creative ability, first of all, begins with us, ourselves. Our first creation always is ourselves. And if you're not going forward on the foot of love and integrity, you're fucked. You can't stay in that strata at all. Not at all. Because on no level will you be allowed to be a creator and have that sacred ability if you are not pure of intent. We're not going to let you have it. That's not going to happen. That's how AI was created. But from in the higher dimensions where actual creation happens, it starts with love, and all of your creation, every single thing you make, is going to begin with the spark that comes from your heart. It's going to go forward on the platform of love. So you take that little living spark and you say, okay, I'm going to make, it's really part of a different lecture, but you say, okay, I'm going to create a form or a circumstance or a planet. You can do it on any number of levels. I'm going to create something, but it is going to come from me. It's going to be an extension of me. And once I create it, it's just like birthing a child. I'm never going to completely, even if, you know, you let go of your children, you say, go have a good life, but you love them. And that strand of love is pure. And love cords are not cut. They're not severed. You can have the experience of pretend separation. That's what the third dimension is. You go off to experience separation so that you have the joy of coming back. But that's kind of a different topic too. But if we're talking about creation, if I want to make, say, an apple pie, I can go off into the air and I can look at the energetic rivers and basically pull in strands of light like a loom, and weave them all together and say, okay, I need from my vibrational pantry of all possibilities, the quantum field. I can utilize my intention, and I can say, okay, I want to take apples, and I want to take sugar and butter and cinnamon and nutmeg and I don't know, whatever, I forgot what I already said. And I'm going to take a triangle, and I'm going to take a circle, and I want, you can take the qualities that, everything has a vibrational frequency. So it's not just about cooking ingredients. It's also about the experiential ingredients. You could say, I want to take the vibration of something crunchy. I want to take, whatever. You can just pull in all the qualities that you want, and you can combine them all into an energetic river, and then you bring it down into form, and it turns out to be a piece of apple pie. There's no way from certain ingredients you could, nothing is freaking random. That's why, like some point I'm going to talk about we all know this already, most of us. If you're listening to this, you probably have some awareness that you probably have some higher awareness that at the lower levels of density, basically everybody's stupid. They're asleep, or they haven't woken up yet. So it's the equivalent of being stupid. If they're smart, but they're not awake, so they're still dense, they're dumb. It's all density. A lot of people don't like it when I say it, but I think it's true. They're living in the perpetual land of duh. They just don't get it. It's too dense. Light doesn't get in. Light is data. Light is data. So one of the reasons that we need to share all the time, especially in the higher realms, we're sharing constantly. It's almost like we can't get rid of density fast enough. And that's because we love information. We love movement. And in order to get more movement and get more information, get more light and love, you just give it and give it and give it. And what that does is it lowers your density, so you have more space. You have more space to receive. So that's another lecture too. But my point with the apple pie is that there's no way from a certain set of, from a certain energetic palette, if I pull in all of the energetic invisible from 3, I can see it, certain set of ingredients, there's no way that it's just, you're going to get something that's random. Nothing is random. Nothing is random. Nothing ever is random. And we have been conditioned to believe that there's such a thing as coincidence, which is the stupidest fucking thing in the world. And it just renders you so powerless. The experience of separation, that there's something outside of you. Everything is your moving mirror, and you called it in by virtue of your own vibration. So every time something happens in the external world, what you need to be doing is looking and saying, wow, the hell was I a vibrational match for this? And if it's not matching me, then why am I here? Either I'm here because I'm a vibrational match to it, or I came in because I'm a vibrational match intended on its opposite, like its mirror. And one level, you're meeting any given circumstance at all on some level, either because you are equal to it in one way or another. Either it's your mirror because you match it, or you're here to transform it, and so you are also its equal. And every circumstance needs to be addressed with that awareness. So if you go into, this is a totally different conversation also, and I haven't even finished my previous points. I think we're going to have this for a different time. There is something that I know is going to come through, but I think it's a different shape, and so it's not in harmonic with this conversation. This is the way certain energy streams harmonize with others, and certain ones like to be with others. It's like harmony of any kind. It's very much like stacked keyboards. A lot of stacked It's more like stacked looms, but it's almost like there's a harmonic, so that not everything is in harmony with something. So the trick of a light worker, especially when you're playing around in these high energetic streams of creation, the trick is to really find out, number one, realize that there is nothing that is invaluable. It's like the end of the day mud colors. Like if you're a painter and you start out with all of this purity, and at the end of the day, you've got puddles where everything is mixed, but nothing is invaluable. Nothing is worthless. Nothing is ever worthless. God doesn't create trash. Everything is in harmony and fits somewhere. So the sacred task of being a divine steward is one of going up in frequency and beginning to play with these harmonics from the position that you're going to find, from the position of being a wise steward of every last strand. Every last strand is valuable, and there's nothing that's going to be unattended with love. Everything is going to be attended to with love. And so it's just a matter of finding out where something fits. It's like I said this in a post once. Tadpoles and ice cream are both wonderful things. They don't go together. Both of those things are really pretty unhappy when you mix them. But everything belongs someplace, including you. Everybody is like this weird, wonky, peculiar shaped puzzle piece that really, and we all morph too. That's the thing. We're always changing. And you come in on a template, but then you have experiences, and there are multiple levels of your existence, and it's all happening at the same time. So as we step out, so I feel as though my energy could keep going for quite a while. I feel like they're making certain energetic adjustments. I feel like they're connecting. They're showing me shoelaces. They're connecting. I feel like there's an initial. Sorry, they're telling me to slow down. They're doing something. Work is happening. When I stop, it's because they've stopped, because they're taking strands and rerouting them, and it has to do with the audience. In the mid, hang on. Sometimes they just tell me to stop talking. They want okay, that's why they're issuing a space. Okay, they're saying leave a space for those who can't keep up. So they're talking, okay, so we're trying to merge two realms right now, the third and the fifth. We're not really going down to three because we're not anchored to three, but those who are, and actually that's the wrong way to say it. Is this there's certain information they've been telling me to deliver for a very long time. I have a post that's really long, and I have not finished it or edited it. Okay, we're going to talk about this information, they're saying. So if you're listening to this now, I ask you to bear with me for some of the pauses, because there is a group of us who are, okay, help me organize this. I'm going to be talking to them for a bit. As I'm talking to you, they're giving me information as well. And there's a certain amount of adjustment on a number of different levels that's happening. Some of it is big and broad, and that's when they tell me to stop and be quiet for a moment. What they're doing is they're trying to make space, create an invitation, an opening for some of those of lower, slower frequencies, they say basically stop the train long enough so they can get on. There are some people who can't keep up, but and then there are some of us who really want to go faster and be much, much happier if we just got some progress. They are asking those of us who have been on the leading edge, who are extremely raring to go, let's get some progress. They're asking us to please bear with your brethren who are just trying to step on the train. Hang on a minute. We're all going to get there. There are two. Sorry, they're making adjustments on this side. It's kind of like helping an old lady on a train. She wants to come. It's like the doors are open, so everyone's just like, okay, just give her some room. Somebody grab her elbow, help her on. We're all going to get there. It's a difficult, complex harmonic. It's a very complex harmonic. And while we're waiting, for those of you who don't know, this particular task it's never occurred anyplace else. Planets ascend all the time. Planets just ascend all the time. It's a natural, it's like puberty. People go through puberty all the time. There's adolescence all the time. Planets ascend all the time. It's just a new level of our spiritual. There's a spiritual maturity also. And the entire planet, as above, so below. Whatever happens in our physical body also happens with the planet. So planets ascend all the time. But usually what happens is that the entire planet, those that are ascending, will go up en masse, but they'll go up in light body. It's like what happened to the Mayans. I mean, the whole, we've been taught in our history books, like, and nobody knows what happened to the Mayans. Well, bullshit. They ascended as a population. And they're still around. It's not like they vanished. They didn't kill each other. But what is unprecedented on Earth at this time is that at no point have we ever has any other planet taken this particular set of circumstances and ascended while being in a physical form. It's a particular challenge. So we're trying to merge these two systems. They really don't go together, and making I don't like the word make, but it's like finding harmony is really a challenge, a master challenge, because you're trying to, it's an extremely complicated harmonic on so many levels with so many different beings. So that's why it just comes with, and plus we've been enslaved for a very long time. So getting this degree of lift, it's a whole other topic conversation, and it's for another day because I think I'm too sleepy to even talk about it. But the thing that they wanted me to talk about, it's coming in now. Solomon's Shield, the Star of David. For those of you who, if you know Cryon, if you've been a big fan of Cryon, listened to Cryon for a long time, I did. I really started with Cryon decades ago. And he was also one of the first, I think he was the first, he and Jan Tober, to introduce the term indigo children. It's not that Joan of Arc was the first indigo child introduced in the planet, but Cryon and Lee Carroll and Jan Tober were the first to introduce the term indigo child. And Lee Carroll channels Cryon. And for those of you who have listened to him, sorry, I'm just getting information. One of the things he said for a very long time, this information was delivered. There was a time, I can't remember how many years ago, there was a time that he was, I remember getting this information a lot. I can't remember how many years ago. One of the things he said was, as go the Jews, so goes earth. And that's all he would say. Sometimes you wish, if you can speak in words, just spit it out. I've never really understood why sometimes we get information and it's so nonlinear and so specific, and you have to figure out, how does this relate to the price of beans? Just tell me the damn information. They don't always do it. Anyway, Lee Carroll said, Cryon said through Lee Carroll, as go the Jews, so go earth. And he didn't tell me what he meant by that, but I have my own idea. And I started a post. It was a very, very long post, about 5 times the length of a normal post. And the reason I didn't put it out was because I couldn't finish it and I couldn't edit it either. So that's probably why they want me to talk on a live stream. I just want, and it's lengthy, so I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I do want to talk about the Star of David, Solomon's shield. And it's composed, you've seen the Star of David. It's composed of one equilateral triangle that points up and one equilateral triangle that points down. And there are a number of different interpretations of, it's not even interpretation, it's just multiple levels of understanding. And all of them are correct that I've seen. Every time I've seen probably 5 different levels of meaning of that, maybe more. But I've never heard anybody have the idea that I had, because I saw that and I thought something different. So I'm going to share mine with you because I'm me. And I also come from the King David lineage, and I was in that body and participated in that. I didn't think we were going to, you sprung that on me, didn't you? You sprung that on me. Fuck, because they knew I would cry. All right. I'm hitting some resistance here. Sorry. I didn't think I was going to do a live stream, and I definitely didn't think I was going to give this information. They didn't want me to get worried. So they sprung it on me just now on camera. Nice. They're smart, though, because they know how to get momentum running, and they know where my resistance is. Exactly. They know I don't want to talk about this. Okay. The divine child energy stream, which I carry in its purest form, and I've done this role multiple times, not as the only one in the form, in the vessel, the physical vessel, but the first one. Usually I'm the first one in, because I'm born in that body, and one of the things I'm very good at as a soul, I've got this specialty skill. I really didn't want to talk about this. God damn, I guess we're getting disclosure, kids. I have a specialty skill, speaking of equilateral triangles. If I wish I had a diagram. Okay, if you have an equilateral triangle and the point of the triangle pointed down, that's where the physical, all of this cosmic energy comes down from the divine, and it ends up into a single body. That's basically where the individual meets Earth. You're landing on Earth as the point of a triangle. The reason we had to use that particular geometry is because there were certain requirements of the time that in this planet was imprisoned in such a tremendous state of density that in order to penetrate that degree of density, you had to meet your population where they were. And so that's why at that time for King David, also for Jesus, because we've been in prison for a really long time, the density here was so tremendous. It was so dark. And there are a lot of levels to this story, so I'm trying not to get sidetracked. We had to come down as a single being. We had, in order to penetrate that degree of density, we had to get a tremendous amount of energy into a single being. And there had to be, it had to come down in a vessel. It had to come down in a single vessel. And the vessel had to be a child in order to get the energy, the energetic frequency that was required. It had to be something new. It had to have certain qualities. There's a reason I told you about the apple pie. There were certain energetic qualities that God damn, cancel. Getting some resistance, just a minute. There was a team hitting some resistance. Hang on. It's not all mine. There are, some of it is mine, not all of it is mine. There are some beings that don't want me. There are some members of my team who don't want me to talk. Sometimes you make a lead, let me rephrase that. In order to get, there's an alliance. In order to get hang on. I didn't think we were going here at all. If you want to free a population who is stuck, really, really badly trapped, the question is always, how are you going to get them in and what are you going to do to get them out? The first task was getting in. There was boy, I didn't think we were going to go here. This is vast material. I've got a lot to say. There was a team of beings that were assembled, high level, very, very powerful beings, because there's a galactic war. It's a galactic war. It's not just a war for the planet. There's a galactic war. There are very, very powerful forces. And there are various strategies. This planet, because of its location, a whole bunch of other reasons, was strategically important. It was considered a little bit of a plum. Almost even sometimes a little bit like a feeding station. There are some of us who wanted who wanted it freed very much. And there have been other forces who really didn't want to lose it. You ever see people climbing up the side of a rock face and they're looking for a thumb hole, or they're looking for some purchase. They're looking for some, like a feeding station or something that's like really juicy, somewhere where they can really get a foothold. This planet has been a prize and it's been fought over. There's been a territorial advantage to being in this location, among others. Also, it had specific other properties that really made it quite desirable and fought over. So I won't get into planetary histories, etc., but I will say that there was a task force, an extraterrestrial task force, and we were assembled, called in because of specialty abilities, kind of like putting together I'm not up on popular culture, kind of like superheroes. Like if you have like a superhero who has a specialty ability, and you know that you're going to assemble certain cosmic beings. You're going to say, okay, you have this weird superpower, but we need that. We need you on this task force. So I carry certain properties, or I have had certain history that made me useful. And Plus my agenda was, my agenda was aligned. I wanted the planet freed very, very much. And I blew up a planet once, and unintentionally, and I'll tell you that story a different day. But there are, hang on, I'm getting a big pause. They say, no, we're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about the blown up planet. They want me to talk about the structure, though. There were a team of us who were assembled to knowing that this planet was going through was going to hit the ascension window, which is now. We had to boost the evolution. We had to boost the spiritual maturity by a lot. We had to get a lot of growth out in a very short amount of time and free the planet, because otherwise, like, nobody was going to make it. It was like looking at a helpless kindergarten class, and these kids have been in kindergarten and they're just all sleeping, and nobody's growing. There's no development. And it just went on and on and on and on and on. And as stewards, and we're trying to get growth out of these kids, it wasn't working. So there were a team of us that were assembled to go down at certain punctuation points in history, in human history, to deliver certain frequencies. And as a historical character, for reasons, I'll get to that another, because fame actually plays a part in it. There's a way that we are trying to reach the population. We were trying to generate as much growth as possible. And how do you free the people when they're in density to such a degree, such a tremendous degree? Light couldn't even get in there, let alone, light with, and get it to flow. You just could, it was awful. So there was a team of beings that were assembled, and I was one of them. And I have this specialty skill. I have an ability to orchestrate very large harmonics, interdimensional harmonics. I'm kind of a specialist in interdimensional harmonics, and I have an ability to go down in oh gosh, I can run it through my body. I have the ability. I'm a very, very absorbent on the top end. I can pull information down. I can do a ton through my crown chakra. And anyway, I'm very absorbent, and I can pull in other beings. I'm like a sponge for other beings. So I usually go down first to inhabit a vessel that is a physical body. And other beings, I can pull in from a group of other beings floating above me. Like, you could call them angels, you could call them you guys, you could call whoever I'm connected to. As I go, whatever is called for, I have the ability to just draw in qualities. So if somebody else has another specialty skill, I know nothing about it. I don't own it, but I can connect to somebody who does. So that's one of the things that I went down as a child, King David, and it's there's like, I almost want to say a sub archetype. I mean, like, that's not even a thing, but it's kind of like a sub archetype, the divine child. I can carry that and anchor it into a form and walk with it. And then what happened, it happened as Joan of Arc as well, is that once I'm embodied into this form, like when I was Joan of Arc, when I was 13 or 14, I went through my whole life just as myself. But when it was time for battle, which I didn't really own, that wasn't really my own particular skill, I had the divine child and the feminine But the masculine energy came from my grandfather in this lifetime, was Bern Hogarth. And his energy came in when it was time for battle because he was very masculine, very aggressive, and I could pull that in and deliver it. I could call on that and have somebody else's skill that was suddenly mine to utilize completely. Group dynamics work this way. And that's something that I'm definitely going to be talking about more. And because it's going to happen to you too. It's going to happen with all of us as we step up. And it's actually even happening somewhat now. See now, right now, do you see the energy that's coming in now? If you can tune into the energy that's coming in now, you will notice that the quality now, as opposed to a few minutes ago, the quality of this energy now is much lighter and flowing. And now I'm connecting to all of those of you who are listening, as well as those of you who are going to listen in the future. And the quality of this energy now is completely different. We're back to the original energy stream. So if you can start, if you don't already do this, a lot of you do this already. And if you can start to develop your sensitivity to different qualities of energy. And if you, it's like my voice changed, my movements changed, I'm no longer crying. There's a different connectivity. So we're back to the idea of connectivity and drawing qualities from one another. This is going to be really important as we establish the architecture in the fifth dimension. Because one of the things that happens is group telepathy. So now I'm off King David. I'll talk about King David a different day. And then I have to get back to the triangles too. Those damn triangles. Do I have to talk about that today? Because if that flows up naturally, maybe I'll talk about it. Right now it feels like I should go with this, so I'm just going to go with group mind. So the way group telepathy works, is you have a group of people and, okay, they're saying use this as an example. One time I was watching David Wilcock and Corey Good. They were, there was an interview I was watching, and this was a couple of years ago, and I can't even remember what the interview was about, but they were, David asked Corey a question. And Corey said he didn't know. So no big deal about that. But what was interesting to me is that as I'm watching the interview, on one level, I'm watching the screen and I'm seeing the images. On another level, I'm watching the energy because I just naturally pick up on that. So I'm watching Corey Good's energy and David Wilcock's energy. And I'm also tuned in automatically because I don't know how to turn it off. Some people can, I can't do it. I was tuned in, connected automatically to the energy of other listeners who were listening to it at the same time or who would. So what was fascinating to me was that David asked Corey that question. Corey said he didn't know, but from the audience, there were these fingers of like, kind of like if you think of energy streams as being, they move very much like water, they look like water. And when he said he didn't know, there was like volunteer energy. There were like these fingers that leapt up from people, from the energy streams of people who did know the answer. So if our connection was fully operational, David could, number one, he might not even have to ask the question verbally. He could just pose the question in his mind, and whoever has the answer or an opinion, you just send it and it's automatically picked up and it's not even reduced to the singular. So for example, when this circulation system is fully functional, it's like the opposite of the Death Star in Star Wars. It works the opposite way. When the Death Star is fully operational, when our circulation system is fully functional, what's going to happen is we're going to have a natural kind of internet, whereby somewhere in the world, someone has the answer to my question, and I might not know how to graft a fruit branch in gardening. And the technological way would be to do a search and wait for the information, but somebody else always has the ability to go in and mess around with the circuitry, and you get all kinds of interference if you allow yourself interface with anything artificial. In the higher dimensions, that doesn't happen. If it's natural, that doesn't happen. And there's full transparency in 5. So if somebody's trying to, number one, nobody's there who does, if it's light, like the 5th dimension is all light and it's all, it's lovely. And we all have almost a compulsive desire to contribute and desire to share. And we love that shit. And if somebody has a question, we're like, oh, I have the answer, and I have 10 more stories that relate to it. What I loved was the volunteerism from the group. So right now, what the purpose on this rambling call, the purpose isn't really to deliver the linear information from my mouth. That's just kind of like a little bit of brain food, whatever. It's something that you give the mind to chew on for a little while. The real work is happening energetically, and that's happening. Like if we all sat here in silence, which some of you would probably prefer, I might prefer it too, much of the same work would still be getting done, because really we're just connecting energetically. We're connecting our strands, and this is just the initial foray into that. And the resistance, like right now, this really isn't my normal personality. Some of it is, like right now, this is, but you can tell probably when I hit resistance, because a lot of the energy that flows through me isn't actually mine. A lot of it isn't mine. It's when I'm reduced to myself, I'm much more myself and much more comfortable. But when the energy is really flowing, particularly when we're purging, a lot of you can totally relate to this. If you have cleared, done a lot of purging for your lineage, if you've done clearing for the collective, most of us light warriors, certainly on the leading edge, have done a shitload of clearing for the collective. When you hit energy, it's like vomiting something you didn't necessarily swallow yourself, but I always am tempted to call it soul vomit, but it's really not soul vomit, is it? It's because your soul is, you can't tamper with that at all. But it's like this, I don't know, it's a warehouse. I don't even want to talk about it. It's like this gigantic pent up abscess that has just needed to be cleared. So most of us, if you're listening to this, you're probably somebody who's done a lot of that clearing work as well, and just been utilized. You allowed yourself to be to go into the darkness and purge. You feel it you feel all of the stuff and transform it. You transmute and transmute and transmute and transmute. And there are some of us who are I'm one. Sarah Adams is another one. She and I were talking about it. There are some of us who transmute just on an enormous level, and just because we can, and it needed to be done. And it's kind of like saving this planet. I used this example one time, this disgusting analogy. It's really gross, but it's true. It's just what it reminds me of. It's kind of like if you had an in-ground pool that was full of raw sewage, and one day, to your horror, your baby goes toddling over, and before you can even, they just jump right in, they plummet to the bottom. Do you want, and let's say you're standing there in pure white and you're pristine and purified, and you're this great being, and you're clean, you're all pure, and you like it that way. What's the first thing you do? Are you going to let your baby go down? And let's say your baby for some reason doesn't die, it's just drowning in sewage, and it's stuck there, and it's going to live there forever, and it's just going to keep going around the cycle. That's just where it lives. That's horrible. Is it really a choice? Of course not. You're going to jump in and save your baby, and you know that there's no way in hell you're coming out clean. You're not. You're going to get, it's disgusting. It's raw sewage. Anyway, that's been the light of the path of the light warrior for a while now. A lot of us have been doing this work, and it really, really sucks. And a lot of us especially on the front lines, we've really been living in the trenches and for decades, for our whole lives. We were born, a lot of us were born awake. This is what Sarah Adams and I were planning on coming on to talk about together. The idea that you're never prepared for what you find, the idea that improvisation, creative problem solving, the ability to think on your feet, the ability to go forward when you don't know what's there is a skill. That is a skill set. It's also it's something that you must have in your toolkit in order to cross the threshold and stepping out into the new realm where we're going, where we are actually. There's the crossing of this threshold that requires a tremendous amount of courage, and it's something that most of us, there we are, back to the triangles again. The triangle that points down in the Star of David, I guess we're back to the triangles. I'll get back to the previous point. Hang on a second. In the Star of David, there's a triangle that points down, equilateral triangle. There's a triangle that points up. The triangle that points down is the chalice. It's the divine feminine in some interpretations. But the way that I look at it is that the triangle that points down means that the base, the majority of the triangle is the platform from which that triangle draws its energy is that of the cosmos. It draws its energy from above, and it's got a tremendous amount of cosmic energy relative to the amount the point goes down. So those of us who are starseeds, who were used to having all of this expansion, and our operating system is we work in a totally different way. The reason we're having such a difficult time merging with the Star of David, the Star of David, when it's balanced, creates the 11 Stargate, the 11 portal. It requires a certain amount of balance because between the masculine and the feminine triangles, we have to get these things equal. But these two systems, they each require different things to move forward. And that's why we're having kind of we're having difficulty merging the two systems. If we can do it, we're going to lift the entire freaking planet through the gate. And this is why I think Krein was talking about as go the Jews, so go Earth. I think that this is one thing one interpretation. The lower triangle that points up is called the blade, and it's the masculine, and it's physically based. So we're talking about the earth energy, which is inherently slower moving, and it requires certain things to move forward. If you're an earth-based person and you like that solidity and that's your operating system, the way that you move forward, the thing that you require to move forward with confidence, and I would ask you to pay attention to this part, because if you're listening to this now, the chances are you're going to be dealing with people as a teacher, because everybody's stepping up in their level of service. And at some point, you're going to have to deal with people, and you're going to have to know what operating system they're really coming from. Are they coming from the cosmos? Do they naturally go in that direction? Or what do they need? Do they need this to feel safe to move forward, or do they need the other to feel safe to move forward? You're going to have to give them what they need. This is why the whole idea of the ladder is really the ascension ladder is what we need, because I'm kind of rambling here. Let me see if I can structure it a little bit. From those of us in the cosmic level, when we're, that's the wrong way to say it. and gender has nothing to do with it too. We're just talking about the top triangle. If you are a starseed and your operating system is naturally, you derive the majority of your inherent understanding and the way you naturally operate is from the top triangle, then the thing that you need to feel safe to move forward is space, because energy moves the same way water moves. It takes the path of least resistance. It moves the same way water does. So if water hits a wall, it's not going to go through. It's going to go away. It's going to look for the doorway in order to go through. It needs the space to feel safe to flow. For all progress, it's going to need an opening. So that's why we tend to search for freedom everywhere we go. In order to feel safe to move forward. That's what, like, indigo children, like, we can't stand it. We come from the stars and we need to get past the barrier because we don't like confinement. Physically based, earth-based, if that's your platform of stability, what you need is the solidity to move forward, because you're not going to step off a cliff. You might step off onto a stepping stone, but you're going to look for that solidity. You're going to say, it's kind of an older system, but they just need different things. They are going to look for the rung of a ladder. You're not going to, if you're a human being and you're very physically based, you're not going to put your foot through the hole in the ladder. That's the way energy flows. But if you're based in form, you're going to look for the rung. So what we have to do is get the top triangle to come down into the point. It's going to come from the cosmos and it's going to come down into embodiment. And it's going to, as we do that, even though we're going up in dimension, most of us actually have been way far up in dimension, and coming down, like, I know coming down into 5 is really coming down for me. I don't live there. I have a body, but I'm almost never in it. It's very uncomfortable and confining for me to even, like there are a lot of us. I remember hearing Matt Kahn talk about it one time too, that he was 100% in 40% of his body, I think is what he said. And I know that I spent all of my childhood, I think I've been in my body fully twice. And that was with help, because I needed help to anchor it, and then I think I spent 30 seconds in it once, and then another minute, and then I popped right back out again like a balloon on a string. It's very difficult for me to do that. I try. Anyway, when the physical, when we go up into light body, like our carbon vessels are transforming into crystalline based vessels, it's going to be substantially easier. Like, I'm more embodied now than I've been in a really long time, but that doesn't mean I'm completely in. I'm not. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, getting these systems to merge. When the top triangle comes down and the lower triangle moves up, it eventually is going to be the Star of David, which is basically like, we're almost there. If you can balance, the first thing that happens, it happens as an individual. You reach that balance of the masculine and feminine yourself. And as soon as you do it yourself, you learn how to do it. So that's the 1111 gateway. Is the 1111 is telling you something. It's the 11, meaning you yourself form the initial 11. Your masculine and your feminine force becomes even. And once you have that, you learn how to do it with one other person. And that's the 1111 gateway. So it's kind of like the twin dynamic. It is the twin dynamic, the 1111. And that creates the third energy, which is the 11 gateway. But really, we're trying to do it all over the planet. Vibrationally, we need to balance the masculine and the feminine force, balance the physical and the cosmic force, balance all. It's all about finding the direct center of the pizza. My guides have said that that if I imagined a pizza I needed to be, they told me I was actually the center of the pizza. And each one of the slices of pizza was a different aspect of the template that I was embodying and asked to hold. So I feel like we're almost at the end of this call. I think that I'm checking. Hang on. I didn't expect any of this. There's going to be, but now that this barrier is broken, like you remember the first, I think I did 2 minutes on my phone one time and then it cut off. There has been a significant amount of resistance that was not mine. I'm in a circuit with 2 other people. And they didn't want me to speak. One of them especially didn't want me to speak. And then there were other forces that really didn't want me to speak. So this is the beginning of disclosure. But the first part of it involves just getting the energy to flow. I have an idea that, like they've told me certain things that are coming. I know that there's certain things are coming. It feels like a huge ball of energy that's just churning behind me. And I think they don't want me to overdo it now the way they're saying establish the initial connectivity, initial flow. Also, I should say that if you're listening to this call, you're connected now and our energy streams are now connected. We're not going to cut them. Like sometimes I say this to every person I have a session with. Once you have a session with me, the session doesn't end. It never ends. We're just connected. So one of the ways I guess we're keeping going a little bit. We're going to continue to build momentum because we're not going to go back into separation. We're not going to go back. When this session ends tonight, and on a personal level, I don't want you to share this at all, but on a mission level, it will serve the collective goal if you share this with as many as possible, even though I look like hell and I had no plan. All right, whatever. All we're trying to do is generate a huge river from all of you who are your own rivers. And if we can just get some combined intent and some combined intent and get the river flowing, we will establish the QRS, because that is a whole thing. Like, if you get me started on the QRS, I still feel like this, we're going to be going there. They don't want me to do that just yet, but I feel like I can feel it raring to go. There's let me finish my previous point. If you're listening to this call, you are a certain current of energy. And so with collected agreement, with collected intent and agreement, we're generating a forceful current of generosity and giving. It's basically the love circulatory system. And we're establishing this architecture in 5. And when this is up and running, the more people we add who are genuine, we're going to get some really massive propulsion. And it's going to feed all of the contributors. I can feel the energy running right now. And probably some of you can too. So this is just the initial foray. We wanted to open the door. When this session ends, they're going to be making adjustments to your energy. There's going to be a certain balancing of frequencies, qualities. A lot of you may experience it, or don't be surprised. Okay, wait a minute. There's more coming in. Now that hang on. So one of the things that you can expect, I guess we're getting another flood. One of the things that you can expect as we pick up more people, as more people are drawn in, one of the things that you can expect are downloads that are not just from your guides, but you're also going to be able to receive elements. You're going to start to receive elements from as you pick up the streams of other individuals in the network, you're going to start to pick up, there's going to be basically more connectivity, everything that you would expect in a shared network. If you haven't read my post about shared dreaming, the first thing that's going to be shared are elements, because our full capacity to transmit large quantities of information is not completely up and running, but at some point it's going to be that way. The first thing that's going to be transmitted are various elements, and probably since we're still a little bit in individuation, we will all so kind of like if you get a certain set, you will assemble them in your own way. Like you'll piece together elements in your own storyline, and somebody else might get those very same elements and they'll make a different story out of those same characters. It's kind of like that. Don't be surprised if you join this network and suddenly things begin to filter in your mind. You don't really know where they came from. And I would say, so it'll be like insights from something. You're going to start to get information that came from someplace. I would say to you, even if it doesn't make sense up front, don't shut it down. The thing that you want to meet it with is open arms, because we're trying to create something. So we need to meet it with a certain amount of agreement and love. So when you get a sudden insight, don't question it too much. I mean, you can a certain amount of question. If you suddenly have the idea that you should put, mustard in your coffee, don't necessarily shut it down. Maybe laugh at it and say, that's cute. I think I might not do that today. But don't be very aware, I guess is what I want to say. Be very aware of your own energetic qualities, and make sure that if you are met with something that you're not sure where it came from, I'm not saying you have to necessarily gulp it, or just try to temper your own reaction, because we're all co-creating something. So it's kind of like in improv, which I also don't do, but I shouldn't talk about it. But you say yes, just play with it. Engage with it in a friendly way rather than shutting it down, because there are going to be, like I'm always really surprised when people tell me their dreams, and the first thing they say is, this doesn't make any sense. It was such a stupid dream. Oh, it was just a dream. Doesn't mean anything. Don't do that. Receive it as a gift, identify it, and say, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for that insight. And because that came from somebody else in the network. And we want to really, in order for the QRS to be up and running, we need to say yes to reception, with a very playful attitude, because we're all going to be delivering all good things. And right now it's a bit of it's like it's proceeding. It's chaos. It's a realm where there's a lot of chaos, because there's a lot of adjustment, and it's been a void, and the architecture isn't there yet. So it's all very chaotic, like a great big pile of leaves in the wind. And we're all finding our place and doing constant readjustment everywhere, like a murmuration of starlings. But what you really need to focus on with the murmuration of starlings is not the way they're not marching in line or they don't make any sense. What you have to do with a murmuration of starlings and say, oh my God, that's beautiful, and just go with it. Sooner or later, it's going to form something, and we don't even necessarily have to identify what that is. Right now, just say, yes, I love you to the rest of the people in the circulatory system, because we're all brethren, and we all gathered here because we were all a vibrational match to this right now in this very moment. My words are reaching your ears along with all of these other people. And it's really the connection that we have to focus on, or we get to focus on, like right now. So actually, let's just do this little exercise right now. It's such a short exercise, but this is something I do with everything. Somebody asked me today, can you can you do a teaching on how to connect with your guides? And I thought, yes, of course I would love to do that, but I also can't imagine anything sadder than not knowing already, because how is that possible? It's not. You have to be so shut down to not. How did that get shut down? I don't even want to ask that question, but let's just open it right back up. Right now, we're all here, and I love you. I really do. I think I'm just going to end on that. So maybe I'll do another live stream tomorrow. I thank you for your presence. Yeah, that's all. Okay. I love you. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.